Okay, welcome to our Divergent discussion. I'm Michelle and I'm the founder of Caboose, an inclusive and safe online community for neurodivergent people to connect, learn and find purpose. We are built by neurodivergent people for neurodivergent people. And I just want to remind you that the session is being recorded. We'll be sending it out to everyone who has registered. We will also have a fair bit of time at the end of the session for questions, so feel free to drop those in the chat as we go, and we'll get to as many as we can. I would like to introduce Madeleine. Madeleine Lobsey is an autistic writer, speaker, and mother of 3 neurodivergent children. Drawing on her lived experience, she shares powerful insights into the realities of parenting while being neurodivergent herself. Madeleine is passionate about dismantling stereotypes, advocating for inclusive support systems, and creating spaces where neurodivergent families can thrive. Her honest, relatable storytelling has made her a respected voice in the autistic community, and she's committed to amplifying the experience of neurodivergent parents navigating a world not built for them. I am personally very proud to be a friend of Madeleine's, and it's a real honour to be able to hear her speak on and hear her insights on this really important topic. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Michelle. I felt I sounded really important then. I was like, oh,
You are
I sound important.
a sparkly world.
Yeah. Yeah, and just for everyone's sake, a couple of things. One is I do have a bit of a cold, so I sound a little croaky. I'm fine, but I have a bit of a cold. And so I might cough every so often. And I would definitely stim. And my version of stimming is facial. So, if you see me doing all of these ones, that's me very excited in the conversation and processing stuff.
Yeah, great. Well, me too. I switched from my colourful thing to a hair tie recently, and it's sort of become the new stretchy thing, which is kind of really interesting. So, okay, well, I guess let's start with, now that you've got a diagnosis, what reflections have you got around parenting before you knew you had the diagnosis? One that I'm very curious about because, like you, I
Mm.
was only diagnosed late and went through all of the young childhood years without knowing.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's such a hard question because I didn't know, and I didn't know for myself. I didn't know for them until really, really recently. And I guess, I was thinking about this question. And I guess the reflections I've got is I probably was already in a space where I was extra aware of mine and other people's and my children's experiences, and also extra empathetic, if that makes sense. Like,
Mm,
I noticed when I felt uncomfortable or they felt uncomfortable, and I was sort of already doing things to make us comfortable, I guess, but not necessarily in an empowering way, like
mm,
probably more being apologetic in the world. Like I did a lot of, I'm so sorry that they're fine, we're fine, I'm fine, a lot more apology
mm,
because we might be struggling in certain environments, or apology like we wouldn't go to certain things. I definitely was that parent who let my kids have lots of days off school
mm.
because, if things were really overwhelming and we weren't coping that well, I would be like, I don't really care what the rules are. We've got to do what's right for us. So I guess there were already things I was starting to do, whether I knew it or not, but it was more in a, oh, maybe we're just like this, or, maybe I've just got to do what's right for my kids, like in a really non-informed, lost way.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting you say in more of an apologetic way rather than maybe an
Yeah.
affirming way that actually it's okay, and this is what we need to do, rather than feeling maybe guilty about it.
Yeah, and you notice, I don't know, everybody listening or not, but you notice things through your kids, like things that they repeat that clearly they've gotten from you. And it's like every time they do it, it's like, oh. Because I do a lot of apologizing. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And maybe not as much as I used to, but
Mm.
definitely I did. And so it's a go-to thing for my kids as well. And that was a bit of a wake-up call to go, man, I've just given them being an apology in the world.
Yeah, interesting. I'm sure we'll come back to this question because yeah, I'm curious about a few things, but maybe we'll
Yeah,
get back to regulation and parenting, which can be tricky sometimes, but I'm
yeah.
sure we'll get to that. How do you think being autistic has shaped your understanding and your child's understanding of neurodivergence? Because you've gone from not knowing and now knowing.
Well, I say this to people all the time and I mean it. Like, it was probably, well, I think it's only 5 years ago, maybe even less, that I literally thought that, well, I didn't really know anything about ADHD except people had lots of energy. And with autism, I was like, they're hyper focused and insular, and it's only boys and they like trains. Like,
Yeah.
really, for real. And so I really didn't know anything. So that, like, as if I could see what was happening in our own household when we didn't match that fit. So it didn't even occur to me that anything we were operating in life from that brain type, from that neurotype at all.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we were dealing with certain things and struggling. And at the time during the pandemic, my friend asked me to run parent sessions online because they knew I had lots of years of working online. And so it was a parent group of parents of autistic kids. And I was like, I don't really know that I'm going to be able to, like, I don't know anything about that. And they were like, well, really, you just want to be listening to the parents and you're a good facilitator and you're good online. And so I
Wow.
started doing these online parent sessions, and everything they said, I was like, and more and more going, oh, wow, okay, this is such a fit. And so
Wow.
as that happened, and I could see stuff with my kids, and they were diagnosed, excuse me, then I started hanging out with, they would say things like, well, yeah, and now I found out I'm autistic. And
Wow.
I'd go,
Okay.
oh, really? Like, how come? And then they'd start saying things, and I'd be like, and so that's really how I found out as well. So it was
Wow.
a real
Yeah.
chance thing that I ended up there. Maybe it would have taken a lot longer for us to find out otherwise because I was so ignorant to it.
Yeah.
No one at school had done any kind of flagging in that way to go, I think your child's dealing with something. So,
And
yeah,
how old were they, Madeline, at that point?
8, 7, 8 was the youngest. So we're
Okay.
talking, far into education
Mm.
and stuff, and nothing had showed up in early learning or anything. And I wonder too, because we know that women are being diagnosed a lot later in life, and we could have a whole conversation about that. But
Oh, yeah.
I think because I was so creative all my life and so artsy, any quote unquote eccentricities got
Yeah. Well,
masked through all of that creative stuff because it was like, oh, that's just a really creative family. They're a bit
interesting. Yeah.
different. They're a bit more, I don't know what people thought, but it would go unnoticed. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's hard to say, probably if I'm really honest, when I found out about my child, I went through all of that. I don't know what this is and what am I supposed to do? And I went through all of that
Mm.
and was deep diving down a rabbit hole of trying to find information,
Mm.
working things out. But then my own diagnosis was an utter relief.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense and that makes sense. And, I could look back on the whole of my life and go, that
Mm.
makes sense. But now I was negotiating my own experience and three very different experiences in my children.
And how do you think that's given you an advantage then now that you have had the diagnosis?
Well, definitely a depth of understanding and empathy. Um, and you know what? I think in many ways, it's been a gift because, you know, maybe not maybe my age, I'm 50. And so in the era that we grew up in and nobody knew what was going on, I mean, I'm just a masterful masker. You know, I've just been amazing at masking.
Mm. Mm.
And so the gift has been in both directions, as in a parent to a child who's had this empathy and understanding that may not be available if you can't understand what it's like. But also, the gift back to me has been the opportunity to unmask.
Yeah. Okay. It's tricky though, like when you found out and you're dealing with your own, whether it is relief or grief or whatever, and you're trying to help them, like how did that
Oh, that's just a
period of time?
constant dance. I was even talking about that today, going,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know, I think on the whole, parenting can be a rough gig and a hard gig, and you are always balancing your own needs and wants and all of those things against the needs and wants of your children. And most parents, 99% of the time, will put their children first.
Hmm.
So, you know, it's been a challenge to negotiate, even considering putting myself first.
Mm.
And then, but I would say, to be really frank about that, at the detriment sometimes, because if I don't put myself first and I get to that point of burnout, then it's really noticeable for my kids, and then
Mm.
it's upsetting for them, and then there's an impact
Mm.
because they don't want their mum to be tired or exhausted or upset or any of those things.
Yeah, it's interesting because they probably have high
Oh,
empathy as well.
yeah, they're all over it. They can tell. So,
Mm.
you know, that it is that thing of you've got to be the parent. Well, not got to, but there's a certain responsibility as a parent. And then when you add to that the high empathy of the kids, like you say, and noticing it and your own needs, it's
Mm.
just a balance. You know, it's a balancing act all the time.
I was curious about that sort of balancing and how you manage it because when you think about the neurodivergent need across, and I say across the spectrum, whatever terminology you'd like to use, I look at our family and I think, wow, there's just different needs of all of us. And how do you navigate that as a parent when, you
Yeah.
know, you need something and, you know, they need something quite different?
I mean, we've got a funny version of that conversation, but it does say a lot about how we manage it. Because
Yeah.
there are people, you might notice, like right now it's quite dark in my room and I've got a couple of lights on just so you can all see me for this. But lights are a real problem for me, you know, like I find lights very challenging and my heart rate goes up and, you know, all of that. I find it difficult to process once the lights are on. And there's out of the 5 of us in our household, there's 2 others like that. Like we would live in the dark if we could, you know. But then the other 2 are very sensory seeking about the light and really need the light all the time, right?
Yeah.
So in our house, we say we have more conversations about lumens, you know, measure of light, than any other family. And we're like, I need the lumens, I hate the lumens, more lumens, less lumens, you know, like
Yeah. Yes.
it's a constant thing, and then it turns into no more decibels, you know, and we're
Yes. So funny.
constantly making jokes about it, but that is what it's like with all the
Yes.
different needs.
So how do you manage that? Like that's like really managing sensory sensitivities. Like how do you?
Well, I think one thing is I've worked hard to give the kids the capacity to advocate for themselves. That's been one thing. And even if I don't like it when they do it, like what they advocate for themselves is not what I want,
Hmm.
I will still say, I'm really proud of you for advocating for yourself,
Great.
even if it's not what I want.
Okay.
Like we all have to go out to a family event and they say, I'm really not good today and I'm asking not to go.
Okay. How do
And
you
and the
manage that?
parent in me is like, oh, just get in the car, I gotta go to the thing, you know?
Yeah, I have to go. You should all have to go.
That's right, you know? Except what I'll say is, I'm really proud of you for advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
And then I'll
Okay.
say, what is it about that that it's going to bother you or you're worried about, or, what is it about it? And it might be they say, I don't know, my anxiety levels are higher today, or I've got a headache, today, or, they'll say something, or I don't like this particular person that's going to be there. I'm always awkward around them. And I guess we get into the details, and then I say, okay, well, if we put this in place, could you go? And
Mm.
then give them the option, and really give them the option, not the manipulative version of it, but
Mm.
like really give them the option.
Mm.
If they, sometimes, well, many times they'll go, well, actually, yeah, I could if that was the case.
Great.
Or if I
Yeah.
didn't have to hug everyone when we arrive, I could go.
Yeah. But how do you communicate that to the other
Well,
side
then the
then?
family, I mean, another part of it is constant advocacy.
Mm.
So, my theory is the more willing I am to be straight, the better. And so I will say straightforwardly to family, hey, it's really challenging for us to do hugs, and it doesn't mean we
Yeah.
don't love you. And I'm
Hmm.
asking that you don't, or at least give my children the choice.
Yeah, great. And choice is such a powerful thing with our community, right? Like
Yeah.
our kids and friends, family. What
Yeah.
about the executive functioning challenges and navigating those? Like, for example, in our house, my neurodivergent need is for order and timeliness and being on time. And my daughter has the opposite almost. Like she'll leave like just enough time to get to where she needs to go. And I'll be like anxious, or her room will be like something you have never seen before. Sure, you have seen it, but how do you navigate that?
I think, I know there'll be people listening here that go, what I'm saying doesn't work for them. And I'm not saying this like this is the way to do it. I really hope that people hear this like you got to find your own way that works for your family. But in our family, I really stand for that communication is the key. And, I guess we will say things like, well, for instance, my son, so he's the middle child, he needs to know the detail, like all the detail. He needs to know what time are we going? How many minutes away is that from now? How long will we be there? Who's going to be there? Like we're talking detail. And he'll do things like you said we were going in 5 minutes. It's been 6 minutes, right?
My son does that too. Or
Yeah,
he'll stand there and say, "You said."
yeah. So there's like really high levels of detail. Whereas my youngest child, that drives her crazy. Like just stop talking, stop asking all the questions, like that
Yes.
drives her crazy. And we've had to keep finding a way. And, I've had conversations with them, even when they were really young. I've said, listen, for you to feel good in the world, you need to stim, and rocking back and forth really makes a difference for you. And I said, your brother needs to ask the questions. And it's
Yeah,
no
great.
different for him than rocking back and forth.
So it's
And
education, right?
yeah. And so there's that thing of, I guess it's a balance again of balancing your own needs, advocating for yourself, but also learning deep empathy for other people's needs and having room for all of it.
Yeah,
And so they'll even say things like, my youngest will say to her brother, I really love you, but I can't answer any more questions, so I'm going to go in this other room.
great. What a great response. That's such a mature response. I'm not sure we've got that level of maturity even at young adult stage, but
Right.
we have a sort of semi question which I was going to ask you about, which is around regulation and co-regulation. So one of the things I think that's tricky is when maybe you're overwhelmed, maybe
Yeah.
you're having a meltdown. What if they are too? Or maybe you are and you need the space, but then being a parent, do you allow that to happen in
Yeah.
front of them?
So I before I even knew I was autistic, ADHD, I already, you have to make choices as a parent, and you've got to choose what style you're going to parent in. And, what I chose has worked on many levels, and then there's other things about it that don't work, right? But one thing I chose was always tell the truth. If they ask a question, tell them the truth. And I guess that's a principle too in if you feel sad, don't hide it.
Yeah.
So it is obvious when I'm dealing with overload. One thing that happens is I can't talk anymore, like I can't get a sentence to go together. Another thing that happens is from like auditory processing, I can't understand people anymore, even if though I can physically hear it. I'll say I can't hear you, I can't hear what you're saying. And that's another way that it looks. And then the other way is I just get so super internal, like I've got to just stop. And now, I mean, we're talking 12, 13, and 15 in the ages of the kids.
Mm.
But even way before that, they would say, Mum, you need to stop,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
sit me down and put a weighted blanket on.
Oh, wow. That's gorgeous.
Or I'll say, I can't. And they'll know that's code for I got nothing left.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And that might mean, and then what they need is different. Again, like one of them prefers really deep pressure hugs when they're dealing with that. The other wants to be utterly left alone. Everybody's got their own
Yeah.
thing. But I
Mm.
guess without talking about it, we dance around that. Like they might, if I'm in the middle of it, they might still come and lay on me, which is good because I like pressure and they like deep pressure, and we'll do that together, right?
So
Whereas the
good.
other kid will walk out of the room and know I need space and go get their own space. So
Yeah.
I guess that's
Yeah.
how we do it. And I can see a question about how do you deal with communicating in advocacy and all of that when kids don't quite understand.
Yeah.
Um, um, I guess I just keep using the language of choice, or whatever choice is in language that makes sense to them.
Hmm.
Um, so I might even say I'm going to this because I promised Granny I would,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
important to her.
And it's good role modeling, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I find it very overwhelming with the noise, so I'm taking my headphones.
Yeah. Okay.
So I might do it like that. I guess even if they couldn't speak, I might say to them, you can show people when you don't like something. And I promise you, if you show me, I will listen. So
Yeah.
there's that safe
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. I think the key, what you're saying really, is that communicating and educating them as well as family or friends that you're with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, Sam, I see your question about your child's too young for you to tell the truth to them. My kids don't always listen either, and they're older. Like, it's not a surefire hit just telling them the truth. But I guess when, that thing of they want to be with me. My youngest has slept in the same bed as me their whole life. They've never gotten out of it. And they're almost 13. And I have to keep striking that balance of taking time for me and having space for them. And I've had to keep practicing stuff like I'm going to have a shower. For me, a shower is really regulating, like the hot, really, really hot water and the water itself. And like it's very regulating. And so I might say, I'm going to get in the shower and you can be in the bathroom, but we're not going to talk.
Yeah. Okay.
To just strike the next balance of what's going to
Yeah.
work.
That's a very good tip.
Yeah, so even if they don't understand it, Sam, it's like, or don't do what you're asking them to, I just keep trying to strike the balance.
Yeah, I found it quite difficult when my son was smaller
Yeah.
to get that space. And you're right, you have to kind of work out the next best thing. Like, is it, I mean, maybe not for, a very small child, but, someone, around the age of 7 or 8 is, the gaming or the TV or something to give you that 5 minute break of just needing
Yeah.
your own space.
And then, even though it's not my preferred way at all, like there's been different times when I've been so desperately in need of it, I've just got whoever I need to get to come and sit with my kid for 10 minutes, even if they're upset.
Mm,
And, like if I've really needed it, I've just had to do whatever I have to do.
yeah. What about with schools? I mean, we've talked a bit about, navigating things with family members or friends or going to events, but what about navigating schools or health systems? I mean, they're both big topics. Let's start with school. What do we want
Yeah.
to talk about with
Look,
school? A whole
like,
session.
yeah, like many people that will listen to this, we have one of those horror extreme trauma stories about school, and nothing I was doing was making a difference. Now, that was pre and post diagnosis, like
Mm,
I have to say, after the diagnosis, at least I felt more empowered to
yes.
go and advocate. Like I
Yeah.
felt like I had the quote unquote ammunition
Hmm.
go have the conversation, but it's still in a world that it's so misunderstood, and it's still in a world where I got told that I was just I needed to walk away and they were too clingy, and it's just separation anxiety, which it wasn't at all. Or they don't cry when you're not around. I mean, just a whole lot of really ordinary stuff that wasn't true. And eventually, we chose with our youngest kid to take them out of school, and they've been homeschooled since they were 8.5
Mm.
because nothing was making a difference. And
And
yet, with my son, he goes to the local public high school. And for him, he loves the bell. He loves the routine. He loves knowing he's got a schedule and he goes to what class and when. And that for him
mm,
really works. But I've still had to advocate. And what I've done a lot of is getting to know certain staff and getting to know certain people in the school, finding other parents of neurodivergent kids in the high school, and then going in and banging on the principal and the deputy's door until they let me go and speak at the school and speak about autism to all the students and stuff. So,
wow. Okay.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it is a bit like being a warrior, I have to say. There's a lot to it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know
I
how to
love
paint a nice picture for that. I don't think there is a nice picture for that.
I don't think there is. I do like your reflection about maybe after your diagnosis feeling more empowered. I know by the time I had my diagnosis, my son had finished, like wasn't in school. And I look
Right.
back and my reflection is that he had a really hard time and was in hospital for like a couple of years on and off because of school. And I now look back and think, wow, if I'd known more about my diagnosis, like I would have felt more empowered, even though we were advocating for all sorts of things. It just wasn't enough at that point. And it was a few years ago too. So things have moved a little way since then, but maybe not far enough.
No. I mean, yeah, and the health system's a whole other thing. Like, I mean, even personally, my GP wouldn't write a referral thing that I needed for me because they said I went in with all my reports, with all my diagnostic reports, just so they had them on file for my autism and ADHD diagnosis, and that my GP I'd been seeing for years said that can't be true. You're
Mine
not.
said the same thing as well, Madeleine. Yes, yeah, right. Because they don't understand, especially, the long term GPs. I think they see ADHD and autism in that stereotypical way. So it's almost impossible for them to see.
Yeah. I think the other thing I was just thinking about school, we just want the best for our kids so badly. And maybe it's an autistic thing that I'm really justice focused, but I have done a lot of work in all the environments the kids are in about inclusion, and that if everybody's not educated, then doesn't matter what we do. So, how I've gone in and volunteer taught ethics in their primary school, which is in New South Wales. There's an ethics program that volunteers can lead in a school that, starts to train kids in critical thinking and looking from other people's perspectives. And I've done a lot of stuff like that to have the world around my children awake to that not everyone's the same.
Yeah. So again, education, obviously is playing a big part in all of this.
Yeah.
What about therapies? Like when we think about, the health system and therapies, what can you share about that? Or what should parents
Look,
look out for
I
there?
guess, in the beginning, I just kept taking anybody's advice. Like if someone would say, I think this would make a difference, I just took it. I took the advice. Now I'm far more, as I'm down the track a bit, I'm far more like, you can't do too much therapy, and that this is the kind of therapy that works for my kid. And, the way we language it is really critical, and I won't have them work with anyone that's not neuroaffirming. And, there's
Mm,
lots of that. But in the beginning, I just chucked everything at it and would listen to what anybody said.
yeah, okay.
And I would say, I guess I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I knew that I could choose the whole way, and um, that actually it didn't have to be so clinical and so medical, that actually, there was a world out there that if that was altered, then maybe our kids wouldn't need that much therapy.
Yeah, exactly. And when you think about neuroaffirming and you talk about that, can you tell us a little more around what to look for there?
Yeah. I think if anybody's talking to your kid like they're a problem with a deficit, then you're not with the right person. Or if you're talking to somebody that doesn't look holistically at the whole of who they are. It's really made a difference with a speech therapist for a couple of my kids in actually getting support with some strategies and tools that have made a real difference to their life. But the speech therapists they have don't look at them just like a kid who's got a bit of an impediment who needs to do this thing to get better. They look at them like, oh, you're really into animals and you love this and you love that and you're really smart and you're funny. And I guess they look at the whole human being and just give support in
Mm,
that thing that they need support to. And I guess that's a way of telling that someone's being neuroaffirming too. Like they fundamentally relate to you, like, oh, you're great. And there's just this thing that if we supported you, it would make a difference for you.
yeah, yeah, that's great. I also think, even with maybe physiotherapy and stuff like that, quite often I know, my son will go off to physio and we've had some physios who don't see the big picture and,
Yeah.
it's like then you're just complaining about this and that and they don't actually see what the real picture is. Whereas when you find somebody who's neuroaffirming, it's been, like just such a blessing to have that whole person.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also that another way you can tell is your experiences are heard as real.
Yeah, you're not being a hypochondriac, as we sort of have heard a few times in our household. Going back to the diagnosis of the kids, I guess,
Yeah.
you said they were, 7, 8, maybe had already started school. How did you then talk to them
One of
about
them's been
being,
only in the last year.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, right, okay. So how do you talk to them about being autistic? Like it's such a, if I wind back the clock, I think back to when Nick was younger, like we kind of skirted around it a bit. We didn't necessarily
Yeah, I
actively
think
talk
we did
about it.
definitely in the very beginning with the first one.
Mm,
And that was more because I was so unaware and uneducated. But I remember saying, this doesn't say the whole of who you are. This is just the way your brain operates, and it's your choice whether you want to tell people or not. And so they chose to tell certain people, and we weren't to talk about it with other people, not because we were hiding anything, but we wanted to give her the choice to say it. And so then when my son was diagnosed, my husband's from a massive family. So like a family event is like 40 people is a small event, for
Oh, wow. Okay.
my autistic idea of hell.
Yes.
But, we were
Me
going
too.
to a family event, right, where there was going to be a lot of people. And my son said, when we're all at dinner, on the car on the way there, when we're all at dinner, should I clink the glass and then just make an announcement and let people know I'm autistic?
Oh, bless. Love it.
And I was like, if you want to, like, is that what you'd like to do?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I don't really want to hide it or pretend. So I said, okay, buddy, then make an announcement. Ding, ding, ding.
That's so cute. When you started that story, I thought, oh no, he's going to be worried about the noise, the clink, clink, clink of the glasses. And
No, he's the one that loves it.
oh,
He's
he's
more
sensory
decibels.
seeking.
We're less decibels.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so, and then I guess, maybe I've just got it, I don't know. I think this could be an autistic trait too, but I'm just like, I'm not good at hiding. I'm an amazing masker on one
Yeah.
level, but on another level, I'm terrible at hiding stuff and I don't see the point of
Mm.
it. So I'm like, well, we're just going to talk about it in a straightforward way wherever we are.
Yeah. I love your straight talking approach, but it is interesting, I think, that from an autistic point of view, that we need to say it straight, but yet on the other hand, we're high masking.
Yeah.
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 I see it in our household a lot
Mm.
as well.
Yeah.
What about talking to their friends, like or
Well, that's a whole other thing. So my youngest daughter has no friends and doesn't have anyone to share anything with and has never had a friend. So her whole life. So that, and her siblings are her friends. And my son had already made friends with the other autistic boys at school. So, you know,
yeah, yeah,
neurokin finds neurokin. So I think he felt a bit like
sure
the
does.
last one in the club to get the badge.
Yeah,
And then my eldest, you know, they already, when they were 8, told us they were gay, then at 10, non-binary. So they'd already sort of had this like self-discovery of what a label is and what it's not and what it is to identify as something. And so for them, I don't know, it's almost like nothing. It's like it just doesn't
mm,
have any bearing
yeah,
on who they are. And I guess we are that neurodivergent family. We all are. So
yeah.
people know that's what they're getting with the package. Like we're pretty out.
It's that package deal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like they're
but
getting
it's quite different, right? It's quite different for our kids and their generation to be
yeah,
part of this neurodivergent family
yeah.
and society, whereas for us growing up, it just
Oh,
wasn't like,
totally different. Yeah, totally different. I'm just reading Rox's comment. Hold on. Yeah, okay. So Rox's comment is, I fear that as an ADHD and not having friends is a poor role model for socializing. Yeah. So here's what I'd say about that, Rox. I don't like most people. Like
except me.
Michelle, I like Michelle. But even then, like if I had to see you every day, that would be
Oh,
hell
I
for
know.
me. I
I
couldn't
know,
do it,
right?
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, well, I mean, we live in different states, Rox,
I
Michelle and I,
know.
so it's
Yes,
ideal, because we
it's
don't
wonderful.
see each other and we can still love each other, right? But yeah, so I think the thing I've said a lot is, and I'm saying this so lightly, Rox, because I swear to you, it was such a journey. You're getting the good end of the stick, but this was definitely a journey, okay? But I always say to my kids, your job is to be social your way. There is no way that being social is. Society tells us what being social looks like. It's not true. being social is whatever way it is for you. And I'm quite fascinated in science. So I've got a friend who's a neuroscientist, and I will often talk to her about, but tell me, can you see if a brain's autistic? And, I've got all those kind of questions for her. And I was talking to them about social isolation. And what they said was that being isolated from other human beings is like if you hit yourself in the head with an axe, that's probably the worst thing you could do to your brain. The second worst thing you could do is isolate yourself. And I was like, whoa, well, I'm screwed. My kids are screwed.
Yeah. Yes. But it's different, right?
But
It's
what she said
different.
was,
Yeah.
but you can be on Zoom together and you're socializing. The same brain patterns fire if you're physically in a room with someone, not even touching them, not even talking, that fire when you're hugging and talking and all the rest of it. The same connection brain patterns fire. So
Interesting.
actually, there's no way that social has to look for you to experience what being social is.
Mm.
And so we're just really, again, it's a topic of conversation. So this post about Kia, this is my favorite thing, right? See that cute,
I
it's
love it. Yeah.
work, and it's like this happy blonde, kind of looks like me, happy blonde person. They've got their arms out, they've got a heart shirt on,
Yes.
but inside the heart it says, I hate everyone. And I'm like, that's me, but I hate everyone.
My daughter says that about me too. She goes, Mum, you hate everyone. How are you in HR? I'm like, it's a secret.
But that's like, that doesn't mean I don't love people deeply.
I know. Yes.
And both things can exist at the same time. And I'm just really straight about it. I don't want to be in a group thing. No, I'm not going to that. I don't like that. But I will come and go for a walk with you around the park as long as we don't have to talk. Or it's really great to see you and I want to have a hug and let's talk for 5 minutes, but then I'm done and I don't want to talk to you anymore. And
Mm.
so, you know, just being able to say that and then model that for my kids has made a difference.
I love it. Be social your way. And I think that says it all really, because it doesn't mean you have to be seeing people every single day or talking to them on the phone.
You can also be in a dark room online playing the same computer game together, and that's it. So all the people freaking about, all of that online time, I'm like, no, that's just them being social their
Mm.
way.
Mm. Yeah. You've talked a little bit sort of about like the role you've played in your sort of community and supporting the community to understand. What role do you think that's played in your sort of journey, I suppose, in getting to where you are now?
Well, I run my own social enterprise designed for all neurotypes to be able to work and play together. And my family, they're just in it. They're in it with me. Like they're
Mm.
part of it. So
Mm.
it's empowered us because there's a lot of conversation. It's empowered us because we've seen the way other people deal with the world or what other families are dealing with.
Mm.
And it gives us insight into ourselves. Um, so it also has us experience really being in the world and being social, even though we're not doing it in any traditional way whatsoever.
Mm.
So, um, my eldest with the big social play events that we run, um, my eldest, like I could not go, they're 15 and they could completely run it without me. So
Wow.
they've
Mm.
discovered that leadership, autistic leadership can look whatever way as well. Like they're discovering, they can be someone who contributes and is valuable and important, even though the way they do it doesn't fit standard models at all.
Yeah. Again, it's their way, right?
Yeah.
And when you're in a safe group, it's different again compared to going to
Yeah.
school or going to, you know, a party or something like that.
Yeah. And I'm just reading the comment about
Mm.
the psych saying her daughter can't be autistic because she wants to connect with people. Yeah. Look, people are dickheads. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that.
You can say that.
And they really don't mean to be. They just don't know. And unfortunately, we live in a world where there's so little education. And I guess that's why people like Michelle and I are so fiercely advocating for something, because the more conversation, the more people know. And, I'm standing for that. That won't be the case at some point. People will see that it looks all sorts of ways. Yeah.
So, if anyone else has questions or you'd like to ask something of Madeleine, please drop it in the chat. But, Madeleine, tell us, what do you think is the most helpful resource you've come across in your journey to date? I know that's a big question because if you ask me,
Yeah.
I kind of go, oh, which
It
thing?
changes all the time because
It
I'm
does.
always researching. Yeah, you're not the. I'm just going to answer that.
Yeah.
Everybody says that. We're all saying that about the diagnostic criteria should change. Yes, we get it. We all know.
Mm,
There's lots and lots and lots of psychologists working on that, and other allied health professionals, and people like Yellow Ladybugs and government, and lots of other people are working on the diagnostic change because the DSM-5 needs to be updated. And yes, that is my Christmas wish too. I hear you.
mm,
Yeah. And if that's what you're getting over and over again from your allied health professionals, go find someone else.
mm.
You're not with a neuroaffirming person. And I would keep going until you find someone else. So, my best resources, definitely, I think all the work that Yellow Ladybugs has done is so great because it is about girls and there was less information um,
Mm.
about girls. The other thing is, I seriously don't mean this as a plug for myself, but I'm the host of the Aspect podcast, and Aspect does really good sessions about all the sort of basic stuff. And I was already listening to that before I became the host. So they do, like, there is a great one on transitions, and there's a great one on preparing people for school, and there's a great one on masking. And, so there's some good, simple conversations that I've found really empowering
Mm.
before I ended up there.
Mm.
I think it's good to go and read and discover some stuff from more really forward thinking social model people as well versus clinical. So Sunny Jane Wise is really, really at the forefront of being, more neuroaffirming. I would also say Yen Perkis.
Purpose, yeah, who does a few of our divergent discussions.
Yeah, she's really forward thinking as well. And I think they're probably the best ones, is to see if you can find people that aren't just looking from a clinical model.
Yeah, I love that. It's that lived experience rather than the clinical
Yeah,
experience. Yeah.
yeah.
Bob has asked for you to tell us about your social enterprise. Do you want to share a little bit about?
It's called Wonderverse, Bob. It's the word under my name. Believe it or not, I named it when I was 8 years old. So when other kids were playing, I don't know what, superheroes and mums and dads or whatever, those kind of imagination games, I used to play imaginary businesses. And I used to get, like, seriously, a stapler and paper and pen and a calculator. And I started answering my phone going, hello, Wonderverse, like this. And for me, it was all about wonder in the universe. I was like, imagine if all the people in the universe could come together and be really happy. That was it. And so for years, I'm 50, right? So for years, I would be on the phone to Michelle, let's say, and I'd be doodling Wonderverse, Wonderverse. I just kept writing it. And then it wasn't until I got diagnosed that I was doodling it and I went, it says diverse in the word. What?
I think I remember talking to you like the week after that.
I was like, what the heck? Because I'd been talking about wonder in the universe. Yeah. So I do a couple of things, Bob. One is I do a lot of, like, neuro-inclusion training and practices for organizations so that once people are old enough to be out in the workforce, that the world works for them. And then I do big social play events, and they're really designed to be completely neuro-inclusive, but they're for all people and for all neurotypes. I'm of the view that we've got to discover ways to all play together and we can't be separated out. And I'm on a mission to have the world work for us.
Mm, fantastic. Okay, let's see. Do we have any more questions in here? Go, just observations. Love that. There you
Oh,
go.
I'm not even reading. Hold on.
That's okay. It's all good. Um, okay, last question before we wrap up then, unless
Yeah.
anyone has any to pop into the chat. What advice would you give parents, autistic parents who are just starting out?
When they're autistic themselves.
Mm, mm,
A couple of things. Compassion, 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 compassion. Mostly for yourself. And then the other thing I would say is it really is okay to design life your way. It really is okay to do it your way. And yep, other people will have judgments and assessments, but I'm like, they're going to judge you and assess you anyway. People were judging me way before I knew I was autistic, like, whatever. And that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt sometimes and all of that, but you just can't avoid judgment. People are going to judge you. There's no avoiding it.
Whether you're neurodiverse.
Whatever you are, you're going to get judged. For not liking the same footy team, I don't know, you're always going to get judged.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you got to know that no matter whatever people say, however they judge you, that's going to happen anyway. And it really is okay that you design life your way.
Yeah.
That would be the other thing I'd say. And I guess for people that are, are really struggling with their allied health professionals, it sucks. It's horrible when it's like that. And you don't have to put up with it. You can keep going and find other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Design life your way. Do social your way. Find good neuroaffirming therapists.
Yeah. That's my t-shirt if I was bringing out a line of merch.
Yeah, great. We might do that one
Quite
day.
lengthy.
And I think you're quite lengthy. We might have to have one on the front and the
Yeah.
back and the sleeves. And finally, Rock says, can we be friends? That's my last question.
You know what? No rocks. And it doesn't mean I don't love you.
I love that.
My books are closed for all friends.
Oh, she's going to have a coughing fit.
It doesn't mean I don't love you.
I love it.
God. It doesn't get more autistic than that.
It's great. It's great. Well, I'm conscious of time, so we will wrap it up and thank you like ever so much for sharing, your story and your kids' story as well. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, you're really welcome.
And just a reminder to our audience listening now or watching the recording is that we have a range of divergent discussions coming up. We're very excited to be talking to Neurodivergent Lou next week. That is sure to be a good one on friendships. And, it'll be interesting to hear her perspective there. And I'm sure it's very similar to what we've heard around doing social your way. We also have a trans influencer, the Goo Man. I love the name. I don't know if anyone has heard of the Goo Man. We'll be discussing perimenopause in neurodivergent women. Again, another great, exciting topic, so tune in to those. We have some things coming up on sensory profiles and a bunch of other things that are happening behind the scenes, so make sure you're staying tuned either in the app or via Humanitics or our website. So thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time.